What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today we are doing yet another tier list. We are doing a controversial class. It is the crazy... Oh, there's going to be some comments in the comment section here. Let me know what you guys think. We are just going to get right into it. So I'm going to start off with Backup Dancer. Backup Dancer is a weird card in terms of the little 1/1 tokens in this game. The fact that it has both dancing and mustache synergy. I did try to make a dancing mustache deck and it completely failed. Backup Dancer should never be in any deck, and it's going in F tier. Bungee Plumber, on the other hand, is one of the premier cards in the game. This is definitely one of the prime examples in how rarity does not matter at all when it comes to how good the actual card is. This is a really good answer to so many cards. It answers basically anything your opponent plays on turn 1. It answers very key cards like Admiral Navy Bean, Astro Shroom, Shooting Starfruit. It will finish off, the way this is better than Rolling Stone in a certain sense is the fact that if something has already taken damage, this will finish off a big minion that has a little bit of health left, but is still being impactful on the field, unlike Rolling Stone needs to be hitting a small minion. Rolling Stone's a good card. Bungee is very good. The other thing Bungee can do is go face. So if you need 2 more damage to your opponent's face to kill them, you just go face. Do not go face with this, of course, unless it will finish off the opponent. The other really good use of doing this to face is to proc the block. Like if your opponent only has 5 health left and they have a full block meter, use the Bungee Plumber to proc their block. So one of your more powerful minions will go face. Absolutely premier card in this game. I will I think it's totally legit running in basically any single crazy deck. And speaking of cards that will be good in every single crazy deck, we got Disconaut. Are these out of order? Where's Con Man? How did I miss Con Man? What the heck? Oh, he's down here. Oh, he's Quick Draw Con Man. Okay. All right. Keeping it going with Disconaut. We'll get to Con Man in a second. Disconaut is a very sad card because it is only a 2/1. Honestly, I really think the next card, Grave Robber, is better than it. Even though it doesn't affect other minions, its ability is a little weaker. Grave Robber is probably the better card just because of the 2/2 stats. This is a very good stat line for 1-cost card because of the bullseye. This will be adding cheap bullseye damage, which is always going to be good in any kind of aggro deck. But for the meantime, I'm going to put, Disconaut has some very niche uses, but it's not very useful, so I'm going to put it down. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a lot of hard things to rate. It's either going to be low C tier, high D tier. I'm going to put it in C because you really could just use it as its own aggro card. But again, dying to 1 health means that it dies to Scorch, especially because this is a card that wants to be played in lane 4 to the right of your minion. So it's making the other guy's bullseye during the attack phase before it dies. It dies to Kernel Pulse. There's anything that really does 1 damage to the passive ability of Cob Cannon. So the 1 health, difference between 1 and 2 health is very significant. I'll put it in low C tier. Next card is going to be Grave Robber. Grave Robber is actually a really good card in this game. It's very useful in aggro. We'll even throw a couple copies of this in a Z-Mech deck that has a lot of swarming minions, with a flag zombie or without. We run Grave Robber obviously in Pirates. The fact that this is a pirate makes it a premier card in an Infinity Pirate deck. You play this on turn 1 together with your Con Men, and then you follow up with your Swashbucklers and your Flame Faces, and especially because now this is going to grow every single time that you play a Gravestone. This will end up being, the next turn 2, it's a 3/2 bullseye, 4/2 bullseye. Once it gets strike through with the Flame Face too, this thing is just such a hugely impactful card for a 1-cost card. The other thing you should realize is, well, it's a mustache, so it does work. It's a very important card in probably the main mustache hero, which is Professor Brainstorm. You'll be running Mustache Waxer in this. It's really nice having a powerful 1-cost mustache together with Bungee Plumber. That makes it a deck. But again, you don't actually need to have Gravestones. This is a mistake people make. You don't have to have Gravestones in a deck in order to run Grave Robber. You could just run this as an aggro card. Very often running as a 1-cost 2/2 is good. Even with no Pirates, no Gravestones, no Mustache. Don't make that mistake. I'll put it in A tier because I think it's definitely useful in a lot of decks. Next, we have Loose Cannon. Loose Cannon is typically going to be more of a liability to you than it is going to be to your opponent because it is pinging your opponent for a lot of, giving them a lot of free superpowers, and it charges their block meter so quickly. Overshoot 2 is good, but the 1 attack, if this was a 2/1 Overshoot 2 would be a really good card. But the fact it's a 1/1, so it dies really easily. And then it also doesn't trade well against anything in the game because anything with even 2 health is going to trade well against Loose Cannon. And it's going to be pinging your opponent's block meter, giving you those free superpowers. Really, Loose Cannon is not a very good card at all. We're going to be putting it in, I'm going to put it in D tier because it's really even hard, even in a deck with Disconaut, that will make this bullseye. Even in that deck, it's probably not even that good. It really just doesn't do enough damage per hit, and usually it's going to just charge your opponent's block meter too much. Mystery Egg is a tough card. It has the potential of being strong, being a 1-cost, 2-cost card, but at the end of the day, even what's a good egg? When does an egg hatch and it's amazing? I mean, Con Man, so just run Con Man. If it turns into, let's say, a 2-3, you know what I mean? You get a Gargologist, a Sumo, something like that. Like, every once in a while, that will be amazing. But at the end of the day, it's a 1-cost 2-3, maybe a 2-3, even that good. And this will very often turn into useless cards, into little 1-1 tokens. It'll turn into the card that you really don't need in your deck. You know, it's better to run a card that actually synergizes with your deck. The only card this really does synergize, of course, is with Unlife of the Party. That will grow for every single zombie that you play. Then if you play Unlife of the Party and then the Egg, in very good turn 2 play, the Mystery Egg will grow the Unlife, and then it will hatch and grow again. The other card it actually synergizes with is Nebula. If you play it into Nebula, you'll get an extra brain, and then it will hatch and get extra 2 brains. That's more of a meme. The main thing is really just the Unlife of the Party. We are going to be putting this in C tier because it's very niche. But it's okay. It's better than Overshoot Imp, that's for sure. Next is Quick Draw Con Man, and I will quickly draw Con Man into S tier. I mean, this goes in literally any deck in the game. Even decks with tricks, like, you know, PvZ Tryhard, of course, his Valk Trickster hybrid is called Hybird. And he actually runs Con Man in it, which is fine. I don't prefer it in that deck, but it's still good in that deck. This obviously is a premier card in Infinity Pirates because it's doing all this direct damage to phase. If you're running Swashbuckler, every single time this does its ability, it will grow, which is amazing. But this is just such a good aggro card. The fact it has 3 health for a 1-cost card makes it so difficult to remove. I mean, it's just such a niche. They have to have Bonk Choi or Meteor or Primal Potato Mine. That's basically it, that they're actually going to be able to deal with Con Man. On turn 1, the amount of damage, if it's ignored, racks up, and if they put affront it with a minion, it's still doing Overshoot to phase. I mean, absolutely a premier card in this game, and definitely, if you want to be crafting cards in the crazy class, this is a really, really good craft, because this can go literally in any deck and it'll make it better. Next, we got Tennis Champ. Okay, so what have we tried with Tennis Champ in the last 3 years? We've tried using it with Secret Swimmer, so that would be a Boogaloo deck where you're trying to scoop this up and then replay it on the field. So it's a 4-1, and then it turns into a 1-1, and then you scoop it back up, and then it when you replay it after Secret Agent, it's going to be a 7-4. It's pretty good, and then you copy that stats in the water lane with your Synchronized Swimmer. Anyway, that's a meme. You really need all the cards in your deck to be independently good. The fact this does 4 damage the first turn, and then turns into complete garbage. The main thing you should do if your opponent plays Tennis Champ is just to ignore it, and then you're gonna have a free 1-1 just charging your block meter doing nothing. It's really hard to find good use out of Tennis Champ. Sports, put in a sports deck, who would that be? It would be crazy. Crazy being a Z-Max sports deck. It's also not worth than that because it doesn't have any real kind of tempo. It's like a misled aggro card. I have tried decks with Brainstorm where you're teleporting this in and then using bonus attacks, so it can do a lot of burst damage. So again, it has some niche uses, but it's typically not something you want to be putting in your decks. It actually was really good in that Brainstorm deck, though, the Tennis Champ. We had OTK Bomb, OTK Tennis Champ. I'm going to still leave it in D. High D, it could have been in C, though. Next, we got Trapper Territory. This is a little cute environment. It's not super impactful, but it only costs 1, so even just to be able to cover plant environments, it is worth it. It also, again, can remove key. Doing a little 1 extra damage on the ground is good. You know, you especially want to include this to be able to counter decks like Cycle Cap that use Planet of the Grapes, a very important environment. This will be a really good way of countering it. Mostly to counter environments, but it's actually okay to have a couple of these in really any deck. I'll put it in Beat because it's a nice solid card. Next, we're going to have Unlife of the Party. So you're going to really have to build a deck around Unlife of the Party for it to be good, which makes sort of Unlife a little bit worse because it's not as versatile. Again, putting this in a Storm deck, we have had a lot of success playing this in Storm decks. You can do it with the, Backup Dancer superpower that makes 2 backup dancers. You can use it together with Egg, like I explained when I was explaining Egg. Unlife of the Party, you can really, if you're just running a lot of 1-drops or running Flag Zombies, sometimes this can be really useful. Every once in a while, Unlife of the Party will ramp out of control. We also run Unlife in the Professor Brain's Swarm deck that has leaps in it, and every time you leap a minion, the unlife of the party will also grow. It's a niche card, but it has some really solid uses, and I'll put it in B tier. Again, this could have been an A because of how powerful it is. This is actually a really powerful card, but because you really have a very limited amount of decks, that's good. I'm going to put in B. I'm mostly, again, rating things in this tier list, not how powerful the card is in one deck and what's its maximum potential, but how good of a card is this in the game if you're trying to just look at the whole game as a whole. If you're looking at all the decks that are viable to make, how often should you be running these cards? Aerobics Instructor. I don't remember the last time back in, 2020 when I made the crazy tier list, what my opinion on was Aerobics Instructor then, but my opinion has changed greatly throughout the years, 100% due to the Discord community, who realized how powerful of a aggro/tempo card Aerobics Instructor is. This is one of the few cards in the game that a zombie that is just a 2-cost card that is just stats, and you just throw it down on the field, and the opponents really have to answer this card. You play this on, the first turn it's a 2-3, but if they don't answer it, the next turn it is a 4-3 because it's gaining 2 attack. I used to think you have to run this together with a bunch of dancers. That is so misled. That can work if you have a little dancing synergy. It's fine if you're running, Loudmouth. That's a really good combo. I'll explain that in the Beastly class, but. You can just put this on the field in any aggro deck. Running a couple of these are going to be good. It's a must answer card, and if they don't answer it, these will start ramping out of control. It'll have you a 4-3, and then the next turn it's a 6-3. If you have 2 of these on the field, they're going to be buffing each other. A really, really premier aggro card in this game for a 2-cost. You can even throw a couple of these in just like a pirate deck, in just your Z-Mech deck with the Swarm and with the Teacher Trick Mech. You can throw a couple Aerobics Instructors in there. I like running this, and yeah, anything you're trying to do with tempo or aggro, Aerobics Instructor is really effective. I like teleporting this card in too, because then they can't even answer it that first turn. They have to deal with a 4-3 the next turn. I'm going to put it in A because I think it's probably on the same level. I'm not going to quite put it in S because it's on the level of Command or Bungie, but it is one of the absolute premier aggro cards in this game. I'll put it in A tier. All right, we got Barrel of Deadbeards. Oh, this is going to be hard. This is such a good card. I mean, it has so many uses. You can just plop this in front of minions dry in some decks, and it just destroys them if they're running anything, beans, mushrooms, anything with 1 damage. Obviously, this is splashing both your opponent's minions and yours. This also combos with, I don't know, Newspaper. We had one deck that worked with Newspaper. It's not even that good, actually. The 2 best ways of activating, if you're running Professor Brainstorm, is to teleport this in front of minions. That way you're playing reactively. You're not just throwing this on the field. Obviously, throwing this to an empty lane, it does nothing. You want to put this in front of your opponent's minions. The other, of course, main combo it's going to have is with Final Mission. Final Mission together with Barrel of Deadbeard will do 5 damage to the minion that is targeted by the Final Mission, then 1 damage everything else, and create a 4-3. I mean, 2-cost 4-3. I mean, come on. This is either an S or A tier, man. It's not quite as versatile as these S tier cards, but it's really powerful. It's either low S or high A. Oh, man, that's tough. You can run this in Pirates. There is a Barrel Pirates version, which is very good. And, if you're running more of a tempo, you're not going to put this, obviously, in a Swarm deck, so it definitely doesn't apply there because you're going to be doing too much damage to your guys. This is really, really hard. Man. Oh. The chat is also very split. The Twitch chat who is watching this live is very split between S and A. This is so hard, I don't actually know where to put this. I'm going to put it in S. I think it's good enough. We used to run this in so many decks. It's so powerful. I'm putting it in S tier. Next card. It could have easily been in higher, though. All right, Conga. Conga Zombie is way better than I thought. Okay, so you got the dancing synergy. Obviously, there's no gourmet synergy. That doesn't exist. Yeah. It's at 5, though, guys. We're still waiting. So it's you don't actually use this in a dancing deck. The main uses of this, I found that Conga is actually a much better card than it looks. It's just 2/2. That little 1 damage, first of all, can ping very important minions like an Admiral. If you happen to be Infinity, then you can place this into a laser-based alpha and do 1 damage something. We've had a lot of success every time we've done that. I'll tell you the main play that I've had success with is just Con Mana on turn 1. Conga, on turn 2, because the con man, if they put a 2/2 in front of it, so the con man ends up at the end of that turn being a 1/1, and their opposing minion ends up being a 2/1, and you can finish it off with the conga. So you're putting a little bit more tempo on the field. You're keeping your, as a 2/2, you're keeping your con man alive. There's something there. Especially that with decks that like having little 2/2s on the field. If you're running anything from Going Viral or Flamenco or Binary Stars, anything that really likes to have a lot of little minions on the field, the conga, that body will matter. It can even, the 2 damage can take out 1 minion, and the 1 will be affecting a different lane and correcting a trade there. I've had a lot of success every time I use conga. I can't quite put it in A tier, but I think in the past I probably would have put it in C or D. I think I haven't even fully realized the potential of this card, and it is very good in a couple of decks. I'm going to put in like low B. It would really be high C or low B. I'll put it in low B. I'm feeling generous today. Next is Cuckoo Zombie. So this is just an aggro card. The fact that it only has 1 health means it doesn't trade well against really anything in the game, unless you put it up against a 4/4, I guess. It's at 2 costs. It's very expensive for a dry zombie. A plant that would be a 2 cost 4/1 would be good, because you have Last Say. You can stick in front of something you use as a control card. Cuckoo Zombie certainly can't. You also can't put this into a dry lane, because whenever you play that, they're always going to be fronting it. It's very hard to get value out of this. I've tried teleporting it in. Cuckoo Zombie, unfortunately, is a really bad card. I'll put it in D tier. Everyone in the chat's going to be mad. But Fry, it has clock synergy. I don't care. Pet synergy? Anyway, Disco Dance Floor is a card that I've actually really just recently, I'm streaming this right now on June 2nd, 2023, really just recently started pounding, grinding this card and really trying to fit it into decks and figure out the use. And it's very, very good. You got to sort of think of this as a 2 cost, 6 damage to face, because when you play this on turn 2, it has 3 health. They could Berry Blast it, like they could Berry Blast any card that you play on turn 2. But otherwise, if they front it with a minion, this is usually, minions are not going to be able to do 3 damage. Obviously, there are some, but typically your opponent's not going to reliably have an answer to a 0/3. So this will do 6 damage, 3 damage to face, and then overshoot 3 the next turn. If you teleport it in, which I love doing with Professor Brainstorm recently, so then you can very, very easily get 6 damage, because they're not even going to be able to put a minion in front of it the first turn. It has a very severe downside, is the fact that, if it matches up against the plant, it doesn't destroy the plant. That plant is going to live, so it's not going to be impacting their board. It's just an aggro card. Also, it's going to be, that plant is going to live, so you're going to have a lane that's clogged by the time the Disco Dance Floor is dead. And usually in an aggro deck, which is the type of deck that Disco Dance Floor is in, you really want that if your minions are dying, at least the opposing minion is dying, so you have a lane open. Having lanes open is a really underrated concept in aggro decks, a very important concept. It is very powerful, though. The fusion is kind of weird. The main fusion card you actually use with it is going to be, if you're running a dance deck, is going to be Headhunter, because then this Headhunter will grow. It benefits a lot since it also has evolution, so it's not like a complete waste of the bottom card. It's doubling up the effect of the bottom card. This will then be big. This will end up being Bullseye, and then also has Overshoot 3 besides for all the other damage it's doing. Every once in a while, and again, once in a blue moon, I've been able to put other cards that are useful inside Disco Dance Floor, like Cowboy is actually a very good combo, because then it overshoots and moves, so the Cowboy will never be taking damage. The Cowboy will go face. That's in the sneaky class. It'll move to the next lane. You can look up Disco Dance Floor Cowboy on Fry 'em Up on YouTube if you want to see that deck. I'll put Shield Crusher Viking every once in a while. I'll teleport one in so it overshoots and procs the block. You're typically never using the fusion ability. You're typically just getting this to be 6 damage. And then, if this is going to die, if it takes 2 damage, then put a con man on top of it and give it a little extra health. Typically, you don't want them to be able to get you for the 2-for-1. Anyway, after the rant of the different ways I've been using Disco Dance Floor lately, it's either going to be in B or A tier. Is it as good as these cards? It's a very good card. Even if people run this in a Pyre deck, an Infinity Pyre deck, just to add extra damage. It's good. It's a good card. Thank you, Alex the Great. Appreciate it. Sax and Upfail. That was like number 5, right?
Are still there.
Number
Keep
2?
up the energy and we can be the...
It's either high B or low A. You know what? I'm feeling generous today, so I'm putting it in A. I feel like I'm going to have so many times I'm split, and I'm just going to put it in the higher one. Speaking of cards I am super split about, Exploding Fruitcake. So, okay. This is, first of all, the bottom line is this is an extremely overpowered and broken card. It's 2 cost, deal 7 damage. It basically removes every single plant in the entire game, with the exception of like Soul Patch, Potatosaurus, and I don't know, Myrna. And I think that's it. It's ridiculous. The Great Zucchini has 9 health. So the fact that you can remove anything in a game for 2 is stupid. So this card, first of all, is broken and definitely should cost at least 3 or 4. The question is now, on the other hand, this should be easy A tier. When I was playing in the tournament, I began to realize that in games that you are dominating and you just explode in fruitcake, you just win. It's like such a good finisher. It's not a control card because it's feeding a fruit to your opponent, but it's a tempo card. You establish your cards on the field. They play their cards. You are efficiently removing theirs, and they are not officially removing yours. You gain tempo, you win. It can be used as a control card, but only in a last resort, like, you know, in Brainstorm, because you're anyway doing 20 damage in 1 turn in that deck. You know, in like a Valtrickster hybrid. The problem I found with this deck when I was playing real hard-nosed competitive PvZ Heroes is the fact that it conjures your opponent a fruit, and the fruit tribe is actually really good. I'm not going to go through the fruit. Well, I could actually go through the fruit tribe right now. I mean, look at, first of all, the cards that are in the fruit tribe. Besides for being very high, I mean, you have a couple of bad cards, but you actually have pretty decent quality of cards here in the fruit tribe. Some of the better cards in the game, including when they get dragon fruit from your fruitcake, man. Astrocot, I mean, look at the quality of cards. Very above average in terms of a tribe in this game. Okay. But the fact that it's feeding your opponent a card means that in a close game, Exploding Fruitcake is one of the worst cards to get. I've seen the Exploding Fruitcake literally be game losing. I've seen it be game winning so many times. Again, I'm not trying to take away from its value, but it's been game losing so many times because in a close game that you're coming down to card advantage, the fact that you grab this off the top of your deck and now you have to use it to destroy, you know, some medium-sized card your opponent plays, and it feeds them entirely new card. This automatically gives your opponent card advantage. This is actually a game-losing card. I'm going to put this anyway in S tier because you can run this. It's viable to run in basically any deck, especially zombie decks that rely on bonus attacks, which there are a lot of. Having this as a backup plan for, you know, Pecanolith, which will mess up your bonus attacks, or Wingnut especially, is really important. But you know, this is actually high A, low S because I'd really urge you to, if you follow, I don't remember even which matches it was, but I definitely know in preparing for the tournament and even during the tournament matches, Exploding Fruitcake in a really close game is the worst card, is the absolute worst card in the game because it feeds your opponent. Anyway, that's my take on it, but I'm still putting it S tier despite my rant. Next, we are going to go for Final Missions. The Final Mission, as I explained before, is mostly going to be a synergized card with the really good Barrel of Deadbeards, which means it does get included in a lot of decks. You don't need Final Missions. Even if you're running 4 Barrel of Deadbeards, you don't necessarily need 4 Final Missions. This card can go face, making a good aggro card. It is a very good card to rescue your very sad backup dancers that come from your backup dancer powers from Brainstorm and Boogaloo, who have this. Usually a very bad card that can actually, you know, turn one of these little backup dancers into 4 damage. So 2 cost 4 damage is really, really good. The problem, of course, with it is that it's a liability because you have to destroy one of your own minions. If you have a Valk in your hand, Valkyrie, which we'll get to in a second, so destroying your own zombie isn't that much of a liability because it makes your Valk stronger. This is a good card. I mean, it's a good card. Just because of its, you know, if it weren't for Barrel of Deadbeards, this would probably be down here. Because of Barrel of Deadbeards and how many decks contain Barrel of Deadbeards and how good that is to do. Barrel of Deadbeards doesn't need it, but it really does kind of need it. All right, it's either B or A, and just like every single other card I'm doing in this tier list, I'm just gonna put an A. What can I say? What can I even say? And thank you, Chirac. Keep it going. Keep it going. It really should be in B. It really should be in B. It's only good with Deadbeard. Deadbeard is good without this. This is only good with Deadbeard. So, okay, fine. I'll put in B. Next, Meteor Z. It's a good card, though, guys. It's a good card. Meteor Z is a better card than it looks, adding 2 damage in a lane. And it's an environment. It's kind of like a little outclassed by Sugar Retreat, because Sugar Retreat adds 3-1 for 2. This only adds 2-0, 2 attack and 0 health. But on the other hand, this is an environment, so it does fill the place in the deck where you sort of want to be removing your opponent's environments, which is pretty important. I am going to... the deck we found a lot of use in this was actually the recent science deck for Professor Brainstorm. The title of that video is Everyone's Going to Play Science After Seeing this deck. Check out how good the Meteors these are in there. It's just decent. I'm going to put it... It's higher than these C tier cards, so I'm going to put it in B. How could this be in the same tier as Final Mission, though? That doesn't make sense. Okay, fine. Final Mission's going in A. This is going in B. That's final. It could have been C+, too. Newspaper Zombie, we only found one. Okay, I'll tell you the problem with Newspaper is that when it takes damage, which affects its ability, then it gets down to 3 or 2 health, and it's very easy to answer at that point. So it's a card that's hard to set up, and then once it's set up, easy to answer. The only exception is with Z-Mech, because he has a card called Healthy Trait. Healthy Trait will add 1 attack and 3 health to this, making sure that when its ability is proc, this huge amount of attack, it'll actually keep rolling. You can run it, of course, with little splash cards to splash your own self, like Barrel of Deadbeard. So we did find a good use for that. If you want to see the Newspaper deck with Z-Mech, check that out. Just look all these decks up on YouTube. It's extremely, extremely niche. I'll put it in C tier. It's about the same as Disconaut, to be honest. Quasar is so good. The 2/2 body, which does matter sometimes, then you're conjuring superpowers. Superpowers are so good. They're a 1 cost, 2 or 3 cost, 2 or 3 cost card you're getting is basically a superpower. Every once in a while you get something garbage, but Quasar is so useful. It combines very well with Space-Time with Infinity, because then your superpower is going to cost less. It combines very well with Teacher in a Z-Mech deck, because then your superpower is going to cost less. So you're basically getting free superpowers. But even without those heroes, being able to play a minion and a trick in the same minion, so then it's a really important card for Valtrickster Hybrid. It is, again, a 2/2 body that can chump block, plus your superpower. I mean, if this gives you just your regular old Lightning Bolt, no Z-Mech, no Boogaloo, just a regular 3 damage. I mean, imagine a 3-cost card imagine it was a 3-cost card that was 2/2, do 3 damage to a unit. That would be so good, and it is good, and it gives you that trick, so you can actually play this in the zombie phase and then decide where that trick's going to be focused. Imagine this gives you brute strength with it, which isn't even that good of a superpower. Brute strength adds 3 attacks. So imagine a 2-cost 5/2, or it's like a loudmouth. You could put the extra 3 attack on a different guy. That's a really good card. Just think of the overall impact this is having on the game. Quasar Wizard is a really, 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 really good card. It's either an A or S, and I'm just putting an S because that is how we're doing. I'm having a hard time with this tier list, guys. Having a really hard time putting in S. You can literally put Quasar in basically any deck and it'll be okay. And sometimes it'll be really, 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 really good. I love Quasar. Next, Space Ninja. So Space Ninja, when it's in an environment, very difficult condition. First of all, it's a dry zombie. Does not have Gravestone. This card should have Gravestone, but it doesn't. So you put it into an environment and it doesn't die to either Banana Bomb, they're very blessed, anything else that kills this. Then... and they'll play Spikeweed Sector 2 to destroy your environment and this all in one swipe. But then it does the first time it attacks every single turn. I don't know why they needed to make that condition. How come this... okay, because I guess it would be an infinite loop. Okay, if it wasn't the first time, then it would be an infinite loop. So it's good it's the first time. Anyway, first time this does damage every turn. It does 1 damage to each plant. So at the end of the day, you're getting a 1 damage splash. You're getting a passive ability from a Barrel of Deadbeards. This can be good if you make it deadly. So we'll either play Graveyard, Space Ninja inside, and then make it deadly. You can also play this directly into Laser Base Alpha, which is less good because it gets destroyed usually before it can do anything, because that's happening on turn 4. Laser Base Alpha being a 3-cost card. So... yeah, not a very good card. We've had a little bit of success with the Deadly Splash, but because of how many elements, you're either going to need this to go in a Laser Base on 4, or a Graveyard plus a Barrel of Barrels on turn 3. The amount of things you need in your hand, the amount of elements you need to make this combo, this really powerful combo work, is very, very sad. It's extremely niche. I mean... it's either down in C. It can't be... I mean, is it lower than... it's about the same as Newspaper, I guess. I'll put it in C. It has one pretty cool, solid use that I probably haven't even explored enough. All right, next we got Sugary Treat. Sugary Treat is a very good card. It adds 3/1, so not only can it empower one of your cards without it adding any extra block. Like a 2-cost 3/1 could be useful anyway in the game, but this is making it that one of your minions that's proccing the block anyway is just doing that extra damage without any extra block meter charge. That's important. You can play this on con man, so then on turn 2, all of a sudden your con man is a 4/4 bullseye. Ridiculous. You can add this to strike through minions, is really, really good because they will always go face, and then they'll also attack. They're basically attacking twice. They're attacking face and they're attacking the opposing plant. So this will be adding 3 damage in both of those categories. I love running this in a pirate deck because Infinity Pirates, because it adds a lot of damage. You can run this with Space Cowboy too. If you're Infinity, you can run this. I even started running copies of Sugary Tree, in the Brainstorm Science to be able to buff your guys, to be able to set up a big one-turn shot with your Gadget Science. You can run this in a Z-Mech. I started running this in Z-Mech Swarm, and what's it called, in Trick Mag, because it's a trick with the teacher. Now this is a 1-cost card, and you just have so many guys on the field. It's so versatile. Only 2. It's so cheap. You can sometimes also have opportunities like with other 2-cost tricks, since there's very good ones in the crazy class, like Final Mission and Fruitcake. So you pass, and if they play a card that needs to get Fruitcake or Final Mission, you do that. And if not, you play Sugary Tree. So it really makes your plays more efficient. Really, really good card. I'm putting in A tier because you put that in basically any deck. Zombie's Best Friend looks like a good card, but it's not. I've tried this so many times. Tried it with On Life of the Party because it's making 2 minions. I've tried it in different Swarm decks with going viral and this and that. I can never get this card to work. The 1-cost card, it makes it very unreliable. It's very often just making these little 1/1s. Something that does not synergize with your deck. It's just dry, 2 little block meter charges. It's almost like a loose cannon. It does 2 damage and then like 1 damage on average. 1-cost cards are pretty bad, unless you are selecting them. Every once in a while, it makes a chimney sweeper on heights or a con man, and then it's a really, really good card, but it's not reliable, and it doesn't have a lot of place in a lot of deck. I'm putting in D tier. Sorry, dog. I tried, I promise. Abracadabra is interesting. Very low stats for a 3-cost card. It is a gravestone, however, and it has a really great ability that's very hard to pull off. The 3 damage, first of all, this has to hit face, so it can't confront it by a minion. And second of all, it can't be proccing your opponent's block. It's got to actually do the damage, but then it does 3 in a different lane. So very hard card to set up. If you can establish a lot of very good cards the first 2 turns that your opponents are not able to answer, then setting up Abracadabra, it's usually the good time to set up Abracadabra. It's much better if you've set up bullseye cards like Con Man, because then they haven't charged your opponent's block meter, causing the Abracadabra to get blocked. Very niche card. Very, very niche card. It's less useful than these, so I'm going to put it in C. I've seen some really good Abracadabras, but I've mostly seen very bad ones. Disco Zombie is just a worse dog. It makes a 3/1 that makes a 1/1. I've experimented with this in dancing decks. After you've set up your Headhunter, or your Unlife of the Party, the Unlife will grow 2 from it, plus it's dancing cards, and then your Headhunter will end up doing 4 damage to face. Where's Headhunter? Because it's making 2 different dancing zombies. But usually this for a 3-cost card just does not do enough. The little 1/1 backup dancer is usually not useful. I've tried this in a whole bunch of different decks, but it's super bad. It's going in D. Next, we got Bomb. So Exploding Imp, we had a couple times we've done really fun decks. One with Z-Mech, where we give this healthy treats, and Cone Zone in order to make sure that its ability, it's very good stats. 6 attack for 3 is really, really good. Problem is, it just destroys itself at the end of the turn. It only has 1 health to begin with. But if you give this extra health with a healthy treat or a Cone Zone or something like that, then this card all of a sudden becomes good. You can also just give it Sugary Tree. Sugary Tree turns this into 9 attack. 2 health, so it not only will live, but it's doing 9 per shot. Our deck with Professor Brainstorm, then we had a lot of success. It was so much fun. Check out that video, please. Would be the 1-turn kill Exploding Imp. I uploaded it recently, last few months, where you basically teleport this in, and then the next turn you put Sugary Treats and use bonus attacks. And then it's doing just 9 damage per shot, and absolutely like knocking out 18 health from your opponent on 1 turn. It's very niche. You don't want to be using this as a control card, because of course you're playing this, this will only control what they played last turn, not what they played this turn. Otherwise, it does 6 damage to the opponent's face and loses a bunch of tempo. It's really niche. I'll put it in C, but it's cool. Love it. Next, got Fireworks Zombie. Fireworks Zombie, I almost never use anymore. The old school, we used to run Barrel of Deadbeards on 2, Fireworks on 3. The problem is that's really not reactive enough. And if they're playing cards like Triceratops, Black IP, things with more than 2 health, splashing a forced splash in order to have any tempo on the field. You know, you play your Deadbeard on 2, which didn't do anything. Then you're playing a 3-3, and you're getting a 2 splash around the field. This ends up being a 3-2 after it gets splashed by the barrel of Deadbeard. Anyway, it's typically not worth it ever to run Firework Zombie. Every once in a while, you can play this, and it splashes a bunch of Admiral Navy beans and mushrooms off the board. But usually just running Barrel of Deadbeards is a much better option. Really don't use this card much anymore. Teleport is a better card than Fireworks Zombie, or activate your Barrel of Deadbeards. I honestly don't use this card at all. In terms of how much I use this, it's D. I just don't know what deck even I would put this in anymore. It seems like there's always a better option, like Final Mission, for it to activate your barrel of Deadbeards, man. Controversial opinion, I'm putting it in D because it really should be in C in terms of how powerful it is and potential, but practically it's in D tier because who the heck runs Fireworks Zombie? Come on. Fireworks plus Shark? I mean, come on. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Gizzard Lizard. Gizzard Lizard's tough. It does a 2 damage splash, which is way better than a 1. It needs Zombie Evolution to do it. We've had a little success with this, but typically Gizzard Lizard's really hard to pull off. Again, it's a 3-cost 3/3 zombie. Even a plant 3-cost 3/3 is better, but a zombie, man, it's not very good. Unless your opponent react, doesn't really do much once it's on the board. Every once in a while, this is game-changing, but what deck does it go in? You need a deck with a lot of little tiny targets, or maybe Disco Dance Floor, in order to, not be wasting a whole minion on your Gizzard Lizard. I don't mind running a couple of these in some decks, especially if you can teleport this in, then it's basically like a little mini chickening, which is good, so I'll put it in C tier. Jester. Jester can do a lot of damage to face if you play it against the team-ups. Every single time it's pinged, it will do extra damage to face. Barrel of Deadbeards explodes. It does. Very hard also to find actual good uses for Jester. I see some people running this and getting some success, but honestly, most of the time I see Jester, it's really not that good. Obviously, if you have Disco on the floor, Disco Not, but Disco Not's not a very good card to begin with anyway. I'll put it in the same tier as Disco, which is C tier. I think this is a pretty... I know a lot of you are probably going to be thinking more B, but I think this is actually a very niche card because typically, this is an aggro card. It's not even that aggro. It's very circumstantial. You need the opponent to be having something to ping this on the board. And at the end of the day, it's doing 2 damage, non-bull. This was a bullseye card. I mean, this could end up being really, really good. But it's not bullseye. It just gives your opponent blocking their charge. It's also hard to set up. It's really not a guarantee you're going to have a good target for the Jester on turn 3. All right. Thank you, Fry and Lee, for subscribing. We'll be moving on.
Baby chick, 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 baby chick.
Here we go. I don't know why we're... Stop. Guys, it's so annoying. Why do you guys do that? Next card is Moonbase Z. So this is a 3-cost environment. It's a very expensive environment. To get Overshoot 3, I don't know. I really don't think it's worth it in most in most situations. Just think about this compared to Disco Dance Floor. Disco Dance Floor does 3 damage Overshoot for 2. Now, on the one hand, this is an environment, so they can't just Berry Blast. But on the other hand, they can remove it with any plant environment, so it makes it weaker, especially at a 3-cost card. It definitely has its uses. I've seen, if they don't have an answered environment, and you're just sticking a minion in this every single turn, little cheap minions all of a sudden are doing 4 or 5 damage per turn, which is really, really good. I've seen it have a lot of good uses, but it's pretty niche. It's very niche. It's either low B or high C. Is it as niche as these? You know what? Because running a couple of these in a lot of decks, especially good decks would have overshoot abilities like decks, with Space Time. Again, it's so outclassed by Laser Base Alpha. What about with Abracadabra? Okay, could be okay with that. I'll put it in B. Next, we got Unexpected Gifts. It's probably a card I haven't really tested a lot. I mostly use this in RNG decks because it's giving you 3 random event cards. You play this in Infinity, Conjure deck with Space Time, then all these event cards go into your hand. They cost 1 less. I have heard, it's been reported to me, that this is a very good way of filling your hand in a Swarm deck. And then they cost 3. It gives your opponent a card. So it's kind of just drawing a net of 2 cards. But if you have a very swarmy deck, this will be a good way of maybe getting some late game. I say just run some late game, though. Typically, you don't want to run Unexpected Gifts. You know what? from my experience, I'm putting it in D. I have heard from people who are pretty good players that it is better than that, and it could be C, maybe even B. But in my experience, is a D cost card because it's really just a meme, and it's really not that good. It's giving you cards too instead of drawing 2 cards. You know, there's a card in the Brainy class for 3 costs that draws 2 cards. That's giving you 2 cards in your deck. This is giving you 3 cards, let's say a net of 2 cards that are not in your deck, that are not going to synergize with your deck. That's why not a great card. Gifts can be really, really good, but it's not reliable. Zombot's Wrath. Okay, so 3 cost, 3 damage control card. It's not that good if compared just to Bungee Plumber that does 2 for 1. This does 3 for 3. There's also Final Mission, which is probably better. Yep, it's a better card than Zombot's Wrath. This can go face for 3. The fact that its ability works in every single lane is a complete meme. It's almost impossible to have zombies in all 5 lanes, and then the plants make their play. It's already turn 5 or 6 if you have 5 zombies on the field, and then they make their play, and they don't remove anything, and then maybe you can get a 6 damage Wrath. So practically, this is a 3 cost 3/3. I did run this in the Binary Stars deck, where you go face with the Binary and the Trickster. I'll mention that later when I go through Binary Stars. I did run it in that deck. It's pretty niche. It can be a decent control card. It does control some things. Not Captain Cucumber. It does control some things on turn 3. It's better than these D-cost cards. I'll put it in C. This card also, actually, the main use of it, I think the chat's probably yelling at me right now, is the main use of this is actually with Z-Mech. Z-Mech has a card called Gargologist. There is a deck called Gargmech, in which this card actually costs 1 because you're running Gargologist and Gargs, and then because this is a Gargantuar, it's a 1 cost 3 damage. That deck is okay. I feel like that deck, in my opinion, is overrated. Definitely made short work of it in the tournament, so that was fun. Nobody ran Gargmech against me in the playoffs, man. They all knew. Anyway, yep, I'm going to be moving right along, put that in C tier. K-Explosion is an absolutely terrible card. Now it's 4 for 4, so the versatility of it going from 3 to 4 cost card becomes worse. Difference between 3 and 4 damage is not very much. Plus, it doesn't go face. I mean, this is absolutely freaking awful. Never run K-Explosion. It's going in F tier. Cosmic Dancer is one of these cosmic cards that really just doesn't do enough for its cost. It's conjuring, but it's not conjuring reliably. It does overshoot, conjures another overshoot card. It's really hard to find a place for this in a deck. Even in dancing decks, it's really not that good because it just costs so much to set up such a weak card, and then you get another card with a little bit of overshoot. It's not even necessarily going to be a good card either. I'll put it in D tier. Man, I'm supposed to be going faster for these for these tier lists. We're almost an hour. Let's get going. Headhunter. So I haven't done a Headhunter deck in a while. It's been over a year. I really would like to start bringing this back and experimenting with it. In the meantime, we have had success running this in dancing decks with Boogaloo and Brainstorm. Especially with Brainstorm, you play Nebula on 3, then you're able to play a 2-drop. Like one of your dancers or your disco dance floor, then play Headhunter immediately into the Nebula, getting another 2 brains, and then you can actually play dancers that turn. So this will end up being, in that case, a 5/6. If it evolved from a dance floor, it'll have Overshoot 3. It'll be Bullseye. It'll be doing 4 damage to face from the couple of dancers that you're playing that turn. So, decent card. It works very well. So with the Brainstorm and Boogaloo have the backup dancer superpower, which actually makes 3 dancers. It's a dancing trick, and it makes 2 dancing minions, which will activate the ability of Headhunter 3 times, doing 6 damage to face. Pretty good finisher in dancing decks. Dancing decks themselves are very niche, though. I'll put it like the same as On Life of the Party. It's a niche card that is powerful, so I'll put it in B. Orchestra Conductor, I've tried so many times. This is one of my favorite cards in the game. I've been trying since day 1, since old school Professor Brainstorm, to make Orchestra Conductor work, and the problem is it only adds attack to your guys. It does not add health. Cards like Chungus Yeti, the 5-cost card that you evolve, adds 2 attack and 2 health. The 2 health is so important, but any powerful card is going to be able to be removed just as easily as it was before. This is so expensive for what it does. You need to actually have a few other guys in the field too. Just puts a 2/2 body. I've tried teleporting this in. I've tried using this with science and then doing gadget bonus attack. I have not. I'm so sad that I have to put this in D tier. I'm so sad. It's definitely better than F. It's definitely better than these, but man, Adding 2, and so too expensive. That's the problem. If this had been a, you know, a trick, 3-cost trick, maybe that would be worth it. Sad Orchestra. Stupid Cupid, also super sad card. Almost has no uses because it's, you know, it's a little bit of a weird control card, but it only controls what they played on turn 3. They can set up a 4-cost plant like a Bananasaurus Rex after you play Stupid Cupid that will completely destroy you. Not a good control card. You can try to play this into Graveyard with Infinity, and then it pops out and then controls them there. I guess because of that one use, I'll actually put it in D tier, putting it to a Graveyard. Also, if you have Toxic Waste Imp on the field with Infinity again. This whole class is just Infinity, right? And Brainstorm. Screw Boogaloo. And Z-Mech. Actually, really good Crazy Heroes, man. Crazy is a good class. Anyway, Stupid Cupid is going in D because if you have Toxic Waste Imp on the field, it destroys any minion. Since it's an imp, it'll be deadly. You know how it works. Tankylosaurus. Not a very reliable card for its cost. Like, what is this doing as a 4-cost card in the game? It seems to get a lot of value, especially if you can be drawing cards and, you know, making this deadly with barrels, again, Infinity, or playing it into a Laser-Base Alpha will make this deadly. Using the Super Stench superpower also makes this deadly. That will make these little 2-shots be destroying minions. Every once in a while, Tankylosaurus can take over a game, but typically it's not a ton of value for a 4-cost card. Because what is this doing? Is it a tempo card? Not really. It's pretty. It doesn't have great stats. Is it an aggro card? No. Control? It's not reliable control. I guess it's a tempo card with the damage, but it's not super reliable. I'll put it in C tier. It's better than these D cost cards. And again, it's niche. Making this deadly with Infinity can sometimes get a lot of value, but it's a very niche card. It's going in C. It seems like the chat really knows me well, because even the cards I'm changing from the last time I did the tier list, the chat seems to usually be very spot on with what I'm going to say. Like everyone for this one was saying, well, half the people were saying C. Anyway, the Chickening, very difficult card to run in a deck because it's very expensive at 4 and it's niche. You know what I mean? If they're playing Triceratops and Black IP and that's the meta and Juggernaut, Chickening does nothing to those cards. It's only going to be good against mushrooms or beans. And how many mushroom or beans decks are you going to face? And even then, there's better options. Like, you know, it's literally outclassed by Barrel of Deadbeards, man. It's probably outclassed by Bungee Plumber, because a Bungee Plumber for 1 cost can remove the key minion. Every once in a while, you'll see a good Chickening, but it's a really difficult card to run in decks. It's funny because it's, again, one of my favorite cards in the whole game, and it sucks. It's so hard to get good value from this, man. It's either D or C. We never run Chickening, though. You know, you teleport in binary stars and you Chickening the next turn. I've seen that be very effective. I'm going to, out of pure bias, put this in C. How could I put it with these cards, though? Is it as good as any of these? I don't know why I put Newspaper in C, by the way. Newspaper's in D. Chickening. That makes this a lot easier. Chickening. Now, is it as good as the C-cost cards? Not really. It's a classic. I love Chickening. This was my favorite card when I started playing the game, right when I got Infinity, man. Chickening, because everyone ran mushrooms. Ain't nobody run mushrooms these days. Budget card. It has its uses with, even honestly, I would still not run this in the binary deck. I'm sorry, Chickening. Realistically, you're going in D. Valkyrie. Okay, I'm going to go against my rule. Remember back when at the beginning of this tier list, when I said I'm rating the cards based on how many decks they're good in, not based on how powerful they are? Valkyrie is so powerful, I'm making the exception, and it is going smack straight into S tier. Obviously, the main hero for Valkyrie is Professor Brainstorm. Professor Brainstorm has 3 very good cards that combine with Valkyrie. The first one is going to be Teleport. Teleporting in Valkyrie means that you have to teleport in. If you just play Valkyrie on the field, you've built your whole deck around it, you've played all these little units, it's going to grow to 8, 10, 12, 20 attack. If you play it on the field, it gets shamrocketed. So you either have to teleport it in. The best combo is to wait until turn 7 and combine it with Mustache Monument. That will automatically just win games. I'm still play Valkyrie decks, man, and they still just win. They just win. You're going to need another win condition in your deck, not just Valkyrie. There are some that just rely on Valkyrie and draw a lot of cards. I really think you need a second win condition card, something that can help you win without it. So having a lot of aggro plus a finisher like Viking, having Trickster, obviously, Valk Trickster Hybrid. It's a really good idea. Yep, so combine Valkyrie Blob. Not a bad idea. The other card that works with it is bonus attack, because it can teleport it in, do a bonus attack, doubles up the attack. There's one other card, and I'm forgetting what it is. The deck I actually uploaded recently, though, again, Valkyrie working only with Professor Brainstorm because he needed their teleports or bonus attacks in order to activate it. The one deck that we actually had a lot of success with was Graveyard Valk. It happens to be that there's a cool game mechanic. To me, it was cool because mostly things, when they turn into gravestones, they lose their buffs. The exception is putting things into graveyard. If you have a Valkyrie charged in your hand and you put it into a graveyard, it does not lose its attack buff. So you actually have a way of playing Valkyrie on the field, it not getting shamrocketed. The only thing they can do is use grave removal. If you play this into a graveyard, since it will be hiding in that gravestone, it pops out and you just fruitcake or bungee plumber or excavator, whatever they put in front of the Valkyrie, and that is another way of activating it. So we actually found a viable use for Valkyrie in an Infinity deck, which is very cool. Of course, Infinity. The best hero in the game, maybe. But yeah, because of how powerful this is and how, I mean, it's devastating. If you've ever gone against what is clearly a Valk deck and they're spamming minions and they have their Barrel of Deadbeard's final missions, it counts as 2 minions in the combat, everything you destroy, you just know the Valk is going to destroy you, and it always does. Such a reliable card. All right, guys. Next is Binary Stars. Binary Stars, my opinion, has been going up and up and up the more I play this. A very difficult card to use. I think the key to Binary Stars, there's 2 ways to activate this. One is you have to have tempo established on the field, and then you play this. This has to get value the turn you play it. If you wait and just play Binary Stars, it could just get fronted by anything with 3 attack and it dies. It's for a 5-cost card, it gets no value. It also is a gravestone because it can get grave removal. You have to, because of the downside, you have to be able to get value. So if you have minions to the left of it that are doubling in their attack and doing a lot and making good trades and doing a lot of damage to face, that is how you play Binary Stars. You can also wait till turn 6 and use a Bungee Plumber to protect this. Now, Bungee Plumber will do 4 damage once Binary Stars is on the field. And if you want to check out a really awesome deck that we called Quinary Stars that starred this card, we basically teleported in Binary Stars on 6, and then on turn 7, we used everything from Bungee Plumber to Final Mission to Trickster to bonus attacks. You just wreck your opponent's face because everything is doing double damage. So there's a lot of decent uses for this. You can even stick this at the end of a Z-Mech deck because you've swarmed, you've established all this tempo. Binary Stars, all of a sudden, it's going to be doubling your cards up. This is a really, really powerful card, but very niche. And because of, oh man, it's either A or B. I'm really growing in so much respect for this because the ability's powerful. You just gotta really know how to set it up. Oh man, okay. So if I'm just gonna be rating it based on power, it's gonna go in A. But based on how many decks it's usable in, it's very niche, and it's gonna go in B. It feels bad putting this below Disco Dance Floor. You know what? And because having just 2 of these in a lot of decks, just as a little extra power for a finisher is going to be useful, I'm going to put it in A. Because I think the amount of decks I put it in is not enough. I think this actually has more uses, just from my experience with it, and I definitely want to keep on exploring this amazing, amazing high potential card in Binary Stars. I'm putting it in low A tier. It's not quite as versatile as any of these cards. But it's definitely more powerful than all of them, and it's pretty versatile. So I'm putting it in A. Next is going to be Flamenco Zombie. Yeah, it's been really hard. It's been really hard to find value at Flamenco. Every once in a while, this takes over a game. This can do 8-10 damage, even theoretically, if you have a synchronized swimmer in the water lane. This can do a lot. It's very hard to set up because you have to have a lot of dancing cards, which typically don't have a lot of health, and they have to stay on the field from turn to turn, and then you have to end with Flamenco. This has tremendous burst damage, but it's very niche. For now, I hope I find the amazing deck for Flamenco. I really hope I do. For now, I have to put it in C tier. It's a decent finisher in some dancing decks, and I hope I find the amazing one-turn kill Flamenco Zombie. I mean, maybe teleport Binary into a Flamenco combo. Okay, you know what? We'll do it. We'll brainstorm, okay? I'll write that down, and maybe I'll change my opinion. Next we got Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy is a 5-cost 3/4 that does 3 damage. 3 damage to something. So it's a control card. It's a tempo card that only controls what they play the turn before. I mean, for real, this is F tier. There's absolutely no freaking place for this in the game. Other than a meme deck where you're just trying to do 3 damage to your opponent's face and winning with Soldier Boy. It's always a lot of fun, but sorry guys. Soldier Boy, for a 5-cost card, it's poor stats and relatively poor ability. It's got to go in F tier. Next, we got Frankatar. Everyone is like, Frankatar Valk. It's not a good idea. Frankatar is only stats. It doesn't have Frenzy. It's just a big Garg. It's just a big Garg that has good stats and gets better stats as the game goes by, but it doesn't have Frenzy. It's like a bad Supernova Garg. I don't know. Every once in a while, Frankatar will take over a game, but usually they have some kind of removal, some kind of Shamrocket, Cob Cannon. It just dies to any removal cards. So bad. Removal so good in this game. Making Garg so bad. I'm putting in D tier. Next, we got Garg Throwing Imp. So this is a higher potential than a lot of the Gargs because, you know, if you teleport this in front of team-ups, all of a sudden it's making 2 Gargs on the field for 5 costs. You can also splash it with your own Deadbeards. We've had some success with Boogaloo, with the hunting. You know, if you put this in hunting grounds, then they're kind of, it's a 3/3 that makes up 5/6 on average, which is pretty good. It does have some potential. There's also this Discord deck that they run with they teleport this in and they run a lot of splash. It's okay. It's super, super niche. I'll put it in C tier. Hippity Hop Garg is, again, okay card because it does splash other things into the field. It has decent attack. You typically see this being used like in Z-Mech deck with Gargologist. It's okay. It's good. The fact, again, when it gets attacked, you know, it starts making other minions in other lanes, and then you can go and viral all of them and stuff. That's kind of fun. Because it's not just stats as an ability, I'll put in C tier, but again, it's usually very sad to put this on turn 5 because they Shamrocket it and they establish more tempo. Hard card to pull off unless you are, unless you have Gargologist. Imp Throwing Garg is just a worse Hippity Hop Garg. Hippity Hop Garg, of course, has more attack, and it also makes a better card. Swabbies are very bad. Eggs are at least okay. So Imp Throwing Garg is going to go in D tier. It's just completely outclassed. It really should go in F tier because there's absolutely no reason ever to run this over Hippity Hop Garg. Okay, we're going in F tier. Sorry, Swabby Launcher. Next, we've got Discotron. Oh, this niche card. So, you know, what kind of deck does this go in? Maybe this should be the deck with the Flamencos. You play this into Flamenco on 7? Like, why do you need a 4/4, a 3/1, and a 1/1? Are you controlling with this card? Expensive card to control, especially because it dies to a Gravebuster. I haven't really ever found the good use out of Discotron. We've tried doing it, I think, with Valk. I don't even remember. Maybe there's a good Discotron deck, but I haven't found it. I'm putting it in D tier for now. I hope. I don't even think I'm putting it in C. I'd rather have any of these cards in my deck than Discotron. Think about it. Play it on turn 6 and Bad Moon Rising on 7. Your little 1 health guys are not going to survive. It's not a good combo. The chat says C. I say D. Next, Gas Giant. This is actually a decent guard because when it's destroyed, it at least does something. It splashes the field if it's damaged, and then it does 5 damage to your face. You know, at least if you get Shamrocketed, at least you got 5 damage to face. Pretty hefty shot. You'll find this again with Z-Mech, with Gargologist. You can run this as a finisher in a lot of decks, though. We also run this in the Boogaloo Splash deck. You stick this into an environment, into hunting grounds, and it's hunting. It has hunt. Now what are they going to do? Any minion they play into it, they're going to get splashed, and at the end of the day, even if they trade even with this, they're going to take 5 damage to their face. Very decent card. Decent finisher. I'm almost tempted to put this higher instead of in C, where most of the Gargs go, put this in B. I think because this has the potential of actually being a better finisher because of its ability. When it dies, I'll put it in B. Pretty versatile card. You can also, there's a cool combo where you play this with Final Mission. You're going to be running Barrel of Deadbeards and basically all the decks with Gas Giant, right? So you Final Mission to face, that makes this actually do 9 damage. If they have an empty block meter and 9 health left or less, Final Mission is guaranteed lethal. I'll put it in B. Decent card. And of course we have Gargantuar's Feet. This costs 11. Games don't go to 11 unless you're playing in a very, very noob game. Typically, it will not go to turn 11. This is not a reliable card. The fact it makes 3 Gargantuars used to be, back in set 1, good because it had a decent chance of making a Zombot, or at least expensive Gargs. Now that we've had all these cheap 5-cost Gargantuars added to the game since 2017, I don't know when, Gargantuar's feat is absolutely awful. Controlling for this card is not a good idea. Running this as a finisher in your Z-Mech deck with Gargologist makes this cost 9. Terrible idea, because your Gargologist will not stay in the field. And even at 9 cost, this is not even that good. Okay, I feel like at 9 this would be good. At 10, I honestly would probably still think this is a garbage card. At 11, though, you know this card used to cost 12? Back in the good old days? Sorry, Garg Feet. I'm sorry, you're going in F tier. Do not run garbage in your deck, guys. Anyway, that is going to be the crazy tier list. Let me know in the comment section below on all the things you disagree with, because honestly, looking back at this tier list, I also disagree. This was a very difficult tier list to make. There's a lot of very high-risk, high-reward cards in the crazy class, I think, is part of it. You know, like Valk, like Binaries. There's a lot of really hard cards to, like Barrel of Dead Fears is a high-risk, high-reward card. It really is. This might be the hardest class literally to make a tier list of, but we got through it. Hope you guys enjoyed. That was the crazy tier list. I will see you in the next one. Peace. This is Fry.